Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase pricing and availability questions concerning this watch. And this watch launched in 2025 as the second generation of the Omega Speedmaster Moonwatch Gray Side of the Moon. Now, this is officially part of the Dark Side of the Moon collection, and it's a timepiece that represents a little bit of a paradigm change from the first generation Gray Side, which was fundamentally an automatic winding watch, whereas this is more like a gray version of the previous Dark Side of the Moon Apollo 8, as this uses a gray version of the same manual wind caliber 3869. Taking a look here, you can see the watch is still as large as it was in the past, still scratch-resistant gray ceramic, 44.25 millimeters, 13.4 millimeters thick, and then 49.9 from lug to lug tip with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. The second generation Gray Side wears large, but being that it is just under 50 millimeters lug to lug, it does fit on my wrist. So I would say if your wrist is my size or larger, let's say 16 centimeters circumference and up, this is going to fit just fine. It's not a heavy watch, partially due to the presence of so much lightweight ceramic and sapphire. And of course the watch features a strap, but this one's a bit deceptive. We have textile on the top, and then we've got rubber on the bottom. So we've got two materials, both of which are quite resilient. So if you want to engage in the active lifestyle, we've even got a rubber gusset to prevent gouging. This is definitely the strap you want. There's also a gray rubber example if you want something that's completely rinsable, but this has every indication of being a 10-year strap. You can see that it's got a little bit of bolstering, a folded edge, a lightly contrasting gray stitch, and then we've got a buckle that is externally made of the same gray ceramic as the case. You can see that metallic polish is also echoed on the buckle, which is externally ceramic, so scratch resistant. You have to press both triggers to open it, so it's very secure. And then we have inside a ceramized titanium, so you get a very lightweight and resilient material here. You thread the strap through this buckle system, which in recent years has gained a second pin for absolute security against accidental pull-through, so you don't have to worry about that. And then there's no need for minder loops because you can see all the excess length tucks underneath the other side of the strap, so it's a very clean system. And because when you're wearing your watch, this part being ceramic, that's all in the danger zone. That's always in the danger zone as you're moving your wrist across your desk. That's the high impact part of the watch. And so having ceramic on the buckle too is a big advantage. Lyre style lugs, we know them well on Omegas since the early 60s, the inward bevel matched by the outward bevel. And what's fascinating here is that despite the fact that ceramic is a very hard material, it has been both polished and brushed, and Omega has created the same sharp breaks between these surfaces and finished planes as you'd get on metal, which is deeply impressive. We'll do a quick loom shot here because this watch has a lot of loom worth knowing. You can see we've got a loomed dial, including chronograph seconds, fully loomed tachometric scale, and then a loomed insert on the push-down crown. Water resistance, as you can see on the case back, is only 50 meters, so it's not something you necessarily want to take swimming, but the watch also features a remarkable degree of resilience in daily use. As long as you don't swim with it, scratch-resistant ceramic is more and more appealing to me every year as I fatigue with the constant scratching and denting and marking of watches. And then the catch-22 of sending it to be refinished, which diminishes the metal, or living with the marks, which can be irritating. So I love ceramic, and this watch is simply covered in it. Tachometric scale used with the chronograph seconds hand can be used to gauge the speed of an object, such as a car around a racetrack, though if you're good with decimals, you can also use it for faster and slower things. You can see we've got a upper dial that includes the sub-registers as well as these cantilever indices outside, and that part of the watch actually is made of anodized aluminum. And then the dial base, which is part of the movement, as well as the case back, that's all laser ablated, and I believe it's laser ablated brass, which is then made gray to look like the surface of the moon. And in fact, I think it was Jim Lovell of Apollo 8 who remarked that the moon is essentially gray. And you can see it says exactly that, a tribute to Mr. Lovell on the case back, that the moon is essentially gray. So you see, we don't need to go back to the moon. There's a lot of talk about that these days. I think the money could be better spent doing something we haven't done before, especially since this watch documents that we had a pretty good idea of what the moon was like in in the 60s. Now, the watch also includes a feature that you would not have historically included on Lemania-based moonwatch calibers, which is a stop seconds function. Very important. It sets very nicely, and although it is a cam rather than a column wheel chrono, that is a great feeling cam. I would even go so far as to say that cam is better than the FP 1185s and 1285s that Omega occasionally uses for high-end chronos. That cam is now the perfect equal of a column wheel in terms of feel, and better than some other column wheel chronos, again, like the older 1285 and 1185. Now, the movement's still distantly Lemania-based, but much changed. As you can see, the aesthetic is the surface of the moon, but we have other things going on. Power reserve is now 50 hours. It's still 3 Hertz, but the balance is now free-sprung for better durability and more precise adjustment. With an anti-magnetic silicon hairspring, the watch is a master chronometer, which means it'll keep time to no worse than -0 + 5 seconds per 24 hours, a test of the fully assembled watch, not the bare movement. Also including power reserve, durability, water resistance, and magnetism, tested to over 15,000 Gauss. That's a minimum, not a maximum. And you can see that underneath the balance, just a little bit of the escapement visible. It is now a coaxial escapement. So no more standard Swiss lever. Now the George Daniels invented coaxial system, which trades the sliding friction of a Swiss lever for the tangential friction of the coaxial, and that is less, improving chronometry, power reserve, reducing maintenance requirements. You can see here the lateral clutch and the cam in action. It's now a 26 joule movement, and again, it is a master chronometer. We also have the ability for the first time to simply just stop the balance and take a look at it. You can see the timing adjustments done with pairs of horizontally opposed timing bolts. There is lots and lots and lots to love on this watch. Front and back, the second generation Grayside has a flair for the theatricals. It takes after both the prior Grayside and the Apollo 8. And if that sounds good to you, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.